I did a kind of the inverse of it where I took the Spotify Wrapped playlist of 25 people and got their top 100 songs and showed where people clustered and stuff like that, and the nodes connecting people were artists that they mutually listened to, which was kind of a similar thing to what I was doing.
And so that would be for like, in order to recommend, like how, so people would look at other people, their friends, to find like similar artists in terms of recommendations.
Yeah, do you want to see it? I could share my screen.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm curious because like basically like Spotify's recommendations that show up next to the artist on the right side, they're sometimes
Right.
like random and not great. And I've like wondered myself like how they like got to those artists.
Yeah.
Nearest neighbor machine learning. So
Ooh.
I think a lot of it is based on like, okay, if Nick and I both like, some artist, Matchbox 20, I know Nick loves Matchbox 20,
Ooh.
like that. And then I think it looks at, okay, of 1,000 other people that have listened to Matchbox 20, what is the highest frequency of artists that appears on their all 5 artists,
Okay.
Where are the commonalities,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. So how long you said you learned a language or some tool to do it?
It's this tool called Gephi, Gephi.
Yeah.
Here, I can show you this thing. I think I might need to be host.
Oh yeah, my bad. Forgot about that.
Yeah, it was just like that. You were in that class with me, user-generated content analytics, too.
Yeah, right.
He kind of mentioned it very vaguely one day, and I met with him and dove in a little bit more. But it's cool to this is not as cool looking as the thing that you showed, but basically so these are, and the only way to do it is PDF. Actually, maybe I'll just show you the Gephi file, because PDF is kind of shitty.
Yeah, so it looks like the exact same thing, even though the one I had was like, I don't know, it was like a little dynamic, but pretty much like the colors represent like one clustered network.
Exactly.
Right.
So if I like Brittany L, then the people who are closest to me, like, because they're different colors too.
Right, so you can zoom in and see here that the artists that cluster around a person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the inverse of here. I feel like this.
Yeah, so the artists aren't bigger.
Right, it's
the artists aren't the main focus.
Exactly. So kind of using and then there's certain metrics, there's a metric called betweenness score, which means basically if each person here were like a toll booth, and each person wanted to visit every other person, who would collect the most tolls, basically? Who would be the quickest direct access to other people, being the highest betweenness score. And we found out that Kat here had the highest betweenness score, so if I were a marketer, she would be the person who might be the best influencer to introduce other people to new music, because she's kind of the most connected within the network. And
she's in the middle. What about, and Jessem isn't, because I guess the people on the right side, it's more heavy trafficked. Do the people on the left-hand side just listen to more music too?
So everyone has the same. So the way this was done was everyone submitted their 100 songs that was in your 2019 Wrapped playlist.
Okay.
And then we found, for an artist to be on this graph, there has to be at least 2 people that have listened to that artist.
Okay.
So we see Odessa here. Odessa has, Jenny S. had Odessa in their top 100, and then Claire A.
Yeah.
Odessa is connecting them. But then there's people like Anderson .Paak had 3 or 4 people connect there. Aretha Franklin had 3, Mac Miller. So, it's kind of one of those things where, and it doesn't look that great when it exports to PDF, but you can kind of get lost in it a little bit and start to also see which artists are around you that don't connect to you, of like, oh, maybe I should check this artist out because around
okay.
me.
Okay, so if there's artists close to you in
Oh,
proximity,
huh.
but there actually is no arrow to it, like that's something you probably like based on similarities, but you have not listened to already.
Right. Like similar to that thing that you guys went over, the
Yeah.
clustering of colors. And then if you have listener data of, I've never listened to this person, then that's kind of where a recommendation can be made, I think.
Yeah, Andres could really like, David Diggs, David Diggs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm,
There's
So
a line
can you
going there.
can you scroll out a little bit, please?
like that.
Yeah.
Manuel Miranda, I see in there.
Yeah,
Shout out,
exactly.
Lynn.
Someone's big into Hamilton right now.
So like, so Santi has some exclusive or like tastes that nobody else might have.
Right. Yeah, he's pretty
Jenny S likes some eclectic music.
right. And then I think no, we had Chin. Chin was somewhere that
Right, yeah, orange, like in between Edgar and Andres.
Oh yeah.
where's
Does
Chin?
Chin not listen to enough music around him?
I think Chin had the lowest between the score. Not to rip on Chin.
No disrespect at all.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I think it's
I'm curious, like how the artists like get to these people too somehow. If they're active listeners or like actively creating their own playlists, or if they're like passively creating their own playlists.
right.
Well, this is from like the most listens, right? Just like for the year, what do you
Yeah,
listen
this
to the
is
most?
Yeah, but
exactly.
you could still be curating your own playlist, or I guess you can be like, people listen to music differently, and people kind of curate
Yeah,
music
right.
differently.
There's also like I don't know about you guys, but my Spotify rap playlist was pretty skewed towards like when I study, I listen to like lo-fi,
Yeah,
and then like that showed up so much in my top 100. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Vitamin String Quartet was my artist of the decade, and I was like, cool, whack. Like I just listened to like orchestral pop hits during my study.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like the frequency, it's like it's not going to be in a lot of cases, it's not like your favorite because, like you said, I have purposes. Like when I work out, I listen to a certain type of music.
Totally.
When I'm studying, like certain type of music, like slow jams, like those aren't going to be like my favorite, but they're definitely up there in terms of plays.
Yeah.
And you don't have the wherewithal to like turn it on to like private session when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Care, but Spotify is listening. There's like one embarrassingly, there's like one John Mayer album that just like puts me to sleep. So I listen to airplanes, and I fell asleep for like 10 hours on my flight to Australia, and it just looped. And 9 of my top 10 tracks were the same John Mayer album, and I was just like, wow, this is horribly embarrassing.
Yeah, that's what people when Warp came out, people were complaining. It's like I use like white noise on Spotify to fall asleep, or I use like a Spotify sleep playlist. That's like a whack like top artist.
Yeah,
it's annoying. Like Spotify Warped is cool, but like I need that access, and I want that access all the time. But I understand why Spotify is like hoarding the data to create like narratives that they want.
Yeah.
Whereas like I miss when I had iTunes, like I want to see what I've played the most.
totally.
Like, show me like what artist and what song I've like played the most. And Spotify is definitely like holding on to that for like marketing purposes.
Yeah. Have you guys heard of Obscurify?
I've not. What's that?
No.
To just take this over, but you give it access to your Spotify, and then it reads the data and it gives you a cool breakdown. So it gives you top genres, and then it says like what's your obscurity rating, which whatever the fuck that means.
Put that in the chat.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I love these things that are like you just give them your Spotify permission, and it like
totally
like gives you like some sort of data or some sort of story around.
What is this like the music that you listen to that has the least overlap with everybody else in the world?
So this is just a breakdown of my artists right now.
Yeah.
Obscure or not, like I guess right now I'm listening to a lot of Wolfpack and Kings of Leon and stuff, but like tracks, it'll show you. I think this is more to date. So it's kind of it's attempting to be a more current Wrapped, because to Chris's like, I want to see this more often than just annually.
Yeah.
And it gives some cool shit, but.
And so you listen to like electro funk beats when you study, then, from seeing Grammatic, Emancipator, and
Totally, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Joey Pescadora and shit. So like, all that finds its way into my top tracks, which is fine. But then your Discover Weekly and stuff gets really skewed towards like, you know, I don't know that I'm discovering that stuff as actively. And then this is like a recommendation thing, which is cool.
The recommendation thing, for me at least, I always like finding it on my own, kind of, more than like listening to Spotify recommendations or any kind of. I don't trust tech. I don't trust tech, but I trust like, I don't know. I trust blogs more. Or I trust like.
Oh yeah, but by the way, Stack hates technology and AI and anything machine learning. He hates all that stuff.
I think that's a big point, though. That I don't know that you're in the minority for that. Like, I think a social recommendation from a human goes so much farther than this black box that gets delivered on our door every Monday from Discover Weekly. And it's like,
it's
to see under the hood and to know that it's coming from a human, I think, is huge.
Yeah, and it's why I like loved your article so much, because like I've always thought, and I've just like never told this, but like when you were talking about like social, and for the listeners out there who can't read, can you just summarize your article, because I think this is a good way.
Thanks. Yeah, it's basically about like just. It's called like the social music tech revolution, and it's just about how technology hasn't enabled people to be social around music like at all. And there's a lot of reasons for that, be it things like there not being a natural universal player. You know, half your friends might be listening to Apple Music, half might be listening to Spotify, so sending links and stuff isn't that easy. But it kind of just dives into where there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in the fact that we're having to send these clunky URLs to friends to have any conversation around music, and the conversation's stopping before it even gets the chance to begin.
Yeah, and one of the things I think, like something that I always noticed was, and there are tons of music startups out there who are trying to like create these we'll call them underworlds because they're startups and they just don't have access to like the massive libraries that Spotify, Apple, and the major labels give access to, like only premier players. So like there's so many companies like itching to try and like create this like social music community that aren't making it out and making it popularized for whatever reason to like a point that it's like a known social platform. You can maybe make the case that like Musical.ly and TikTok might be like pseudo siding to that, but like when I'm on Spotify, and it's because of the library, like when I'm on Spotify, I just see what my friends are listening to. I can't even like it. I can't even like engage with it whatsoever. It's completely like isolated.
Right. Yeah.
And it's and I read the article. I was like, yeah, you're so right. Because like the music that I like has become very much just for me. And unless I like might share a playlist and have like friends, putting in music that they discovered, which is a little more passive. There's no real, like, I don't know what like my favorite influencer likes. I don't know. It's like everything is too isolated that I just like, I've curated an interest in music that is only for me, really.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
and it's kind of go Nick.
I was gonna say, like, there's a period in time, I would say like maybe like 2014 to like 2016, where I was so on top of like music and like finding new music. And I would always have like amazing pregame lists. I would be on point in terms of like finding new music always. But after that period, and especially like in business school, like I have added nothing, like no new music, maybe a couple songs in the past like 2 years. But I have no idea how to even find them. Like all those avenues, I don't even know how I was finding them, but all those avenues are just like gone for me. So my playlist is like completely stale. I play the same things like over and over. I don't even know where to go to find
Yeah.
new music.
I think it's kind of taking that path that we're seeing with the news, to be honest. And it's like, and with happening with Facebook, right? Like you're only getting delivered shit that you totally agree with, and then you see these extremes starting to happen where you get delivered stuff you agree with, and then you only surround yourself with opinions that you agree with, and then you wake up in 2 weeks naked in a field, and you're like, I'm only being delivered shit I like, and it's the same thing with our music tastes because of these pretty good like machine learning techniques, but they're finding out exactly what you want, and then they deliver exactly what you want, and then our like tolerance for trying out new things is going away because it's like it's so easy to just keep listening to the shit that we like, and then we're getting pushed into corners. So I think like discovery is getting almost too good in a weird way.
So yeah, that's definitely like that echo chamber effect. But
exactly.
So how can, like, if we're advocating for even more of like the integration of tech in this, how can we get around that limitation? Like, how do we push forth the human aspect of it and not get too reliant on the tech if it's just gonna, even like be better at recommending the same things?
I think it's giving people the view under the hood of their own data and allowing that to drive human conversations. Like, I don't think we need to leave data by the wayside in order to promote things like social tech, but I think they should be hand in hand. Like for example, like a big pushback that I got on this article was a lot of people messaged me that were like, I don't think music is inherently social. A lot of people say, I like to listen to my music behind closed doors, and I don't really like to talk about it, and I don't see that. Like, that was the biggest pushback I got. And I think that looking back in history, like, I think that people would have said that 10 years ago about fitness. Like, I don't view fitness as inherently social. I just want to sweat and finish it. And now you have fitness is like the most social thing ever now, with Peloton, with group classes, with all this stuff competing. Yeah. Now fitness is social. I think 10, 15 years ago, you would have heard that with video games, right? I'd play video games to close the door, and now video games with Twitch and stuff is like, it's more social things out there. So I think creating technology like unlocks the social aspect of things. Yeah. And I think that like the right technology could unlock the social aspect of music, and like using data and stuff could get people to have conversations and stuff. And I would be more open to trying things if this was a recommendation. If somehow Nick's listener data recommended a song to me and I knew it was coming from Nick, I think I would be more open to trying that out and things like that. Even if it's not you click the button, maybe it's some technology that's analyzed your data, to analyze my listener data. So I've not listened to it, but maybe there's a chance that that we both enjoy it. I think you just need to unlock that social piece, Yeah.
That reminds me of a similar topic that me and Stack talked about, I think, when we first started this podcast like 2 years ago, about creating like there being a fake AI version of Kanye. But I want to go back to that topic in a minute. But like the people who are giving you pushback about your article and saying that they don't think music is inherently social, they don't want to like talk about it. Is it because like there's an aspect of like maybe like shame, or like for those people who might be listening to different things and like maybe feel uncomfortable about talking about it because I might be looked at a certain way for listening to that type of music?
Yeah, I definitely think it's that. I also think, not to call people out, but it's an older generation. I think I think we're seeing now with the popularity of TikTok with Gen Z and part of the millennials is like people are thirsting to express themselves with music, and the technology is just not out there. And then when you see something like TikTok come across, it exploded with engagement as well. The engagement metrics are just insane because it's finally a way for people to express themselves through music. So I found that it's mostly older people that put it out there that are like, hey, I listen to this stuff. It's private to me. I don't want the world knowing what I'm listening to on a Sunday morning.
I agree with that. About the timing of when you listen to music, I don't want people seeing like at 4 a.m. I'm listening to like Usher or like Boyz II Men. Like I don't want people to know that. So I agree with the timing aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's and the way I'm kind of like, I would really like to see like what my close group of friends are listening to. Like if Spotify could even just do like, groups, like social groups or something like that. Because I'm more interested to see what like my friends are interested to, because I kind of know their taste. Another thing, like in the music industry, there's like publishing for like people to just like listen to in their homes, and then there's the live element, and they're two like pretty different like distinctions in the music space. Whereas like the live element, typically does cater to the younger generation, and that kind of music that live element is a very different listening experience and like social music experience than the publishing side of things, where music is on television shows, movies, just like passive listening. Older people listening to music, and I do see people just kind of wanting, because there's something about like being with people in a live space that's completely separate from like listening at home.
Yeah, that experience. Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
But there still is something about like with TikTok, and a lot of the music discovery kind of new platforms. I just saw, the music blogs are, kind of by the wayside. And a lot of some people who started music blogs are now starting these like upvote generators, where like a group of like music discoverists are just like clicking, thumbs up. And those are communities of just people who are really into like discovering new artists, just pressing yes or nothing else, and just like upvoting their favorite songs, which I think is something that can work in like smaller like factions. Like if I just took like my group of 10 friends, and then the problem is like the library is so huge, but like you just like upvote things.
Right. I like that more. I think like the collaborative playlisting is so hard to keep momentum up with that. Like first couple weeks you're excited, you got a funny playlist name and you're like adding to it and stuff, and then 2 weeks later people are like, I just don't have the energy to keep doing this. And upvoting could be an easier way to keep that going or something like that.
Yeah, and music is also like pretty connected to like action, right? So like you might have like a favorite playlist that you listen to, like I'm thinking just at home listening, for a different playlist for studying, a different playlist for like cooking, a different playlist for shower, different playlists for different actions. So that's why it's easier to have like a collaborative playlist. Let's say if you're all in an office together and you had like a collaborative playlist, you're like, and you find somebody that also enjoys music with that action, then it's easier to collaborate on that. But I completely agree that like nowadays, like if I start a music playlist with friends, it'll die off in a little as like people's discovery kind of just gets ADD, and they start trying to find other things.
What do you think like the ideal, because obviously like social, just that word even is changing so much, and like what we inherently, even our generation, thinks of as social is like the ability to comment and like and things like that, and even that is starting to die now with the stories now taking over from the feed, and and maybe it is more of just liking things, and like just the interaction with social and what that means is like changing. And I don't even know like what Gen Z ideally, what their engagement, what their needs are on a social.
Yeah, part of me is a little part of me unfortunately thinks social is like people have the people that they like to follow on social media. Everyone has like their own god these days. Like Cardi B is a god, Kanye is a god, but like everyone like follows like their own like favorite influencer.
Yeah.
So to like see what they're listening to or what their favorite new music discovery is,
Mhm.
I think could be cool for people who are into following like influencers and celebrities, which I think a lot of people are. And
Yeah.
then for people who don't give a shit about that, you know, something you can do within your friend group. Um,
Yeah.
but those are the kind of two avenues. I think like unfortunately like celebrities are like the Gen Z and the kind of the technology like avenue of socializing because you follow this like idol of yours and you enjoy
Right.
what they're posting and you'd probably enjoy seeing what their favorite music discovery is once a week.
Yeah. I've
Um,
seen some interesting startups in the space trying to take the fantasy sports model into music. I don't know if you guys have seen that, where it's like a fantasy record label. So like you and your friends would each pick 10 artists or groups and kind of track their progress after you add them to your record label. And
Yeah.
and
So is that like
the
based on their success in like number of streams and sales and stuff?
I've seen like one is using streams, like Spotify streams. I've
Yeah.
seen another one it hasn't launched yet, that's trying to do like a proprietary algorithm that would blend streams, social media engagement, and a few other things into like a score. And if your
Yeah.
artist score goes up, then your label
Mm.
better than your friends. And um, it's interesting seeing like people taking parallel industries and trying to apply it to social music tech in a way.
Yeah.
yeah,
That'd be
sounds.
pretty cool if we did that like as a group.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm curious if it's like again something that we do for a little and then dies out.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I think so.
I had a point, but I forgot. Go ahead, Nick.
yeah, no, but like I was gonna say for like artists, say there's like some artists that I've heard at a festival or something that are nobody really knows about are up and coming, and then like I recommend them. To me, like the big, I'm not gonna be like in 5 years from now, this artist is gonna have this amount of sale. This artist is gonna be huge. Like I don't really care commercially
Right.
what happens to them, but I do care what if my friends also agree with me that that's like a good, good artist or whatever. So
Totally.
again, like what we were saying, like that group, that pocket of friends, like their opinion for me is more important than like that global mass success or appeal. So like
Right.
I think it works. Yeah, it definitely works better within a friend group where you kind of overlap and know each other's interests and like obviously care more about their opinion than like just a mass appeal.
And I think that's where the data could be most useful. Like I think like bottling that endorphin feeling of you sending a song to someone and then a week later them being like, oh, I can't stop listening to this song. It's fucking
Yeah.
incredible. And like that feels really good. And it right now it's really hard to do, especially with friends that you're not geographically close to, like the virtual engagement, or to be able, like, yes, if you're with someone and you hang out a lot, you can play it on the aux cord or whatever, but long distance it's tough to do. And like why can't there be this tracking of the life of a song, and like once you send it to someone,
Yeah.
why can't that every listen from there then be attributed back to you? Have this central score that says, okay, Nick Sanders has created 250 incremental listens this week from your recommendations, and then that sort of gamifies into, okay, Nick is ranked number 2 out of 8 within this friend group, and like who's influencing who.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And this is what, like, in terms of gamifying and like adding a competitive nature, because you want, like, back in college when you were like, yo, you got to listen to this, and they listened to this and they loved it, like that was the best feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is, what we do with our friends is like we recommend like movies and TV shows and assign points. And that's the whole idea, is to like you want to be the one like ahead of the curve. You want to be the one recommending. You want to get all the points.
Right.
And I think that's, yeah, I completely agree with that. In terms of, yeah, I just think that's a great idea.
That reminds me of like blockchain, like it being like a ledger. So like so someone recommends something, and that's the origin of the ledger, right? The whole chain. And
Right.
then it goes on. Next point is someone like listens to it. That's one event. Then this person like upvotes it. That's one event. And like there's this ledger of like how it's how many people have listened to it, what people have recommended it, like who they shared it to. So you
Right.
can get like a full picture of its entire life cycle. And like
Huh.
you can use that to assign some type of like score or influence, or like use that to like send it a different direction.
Yeah.
That's like reminds me a lot of blockchain actually.
It's interesting that you mentioned that too, because I have been like looking into what sort of music tech, like venture capital exists out in the world, like what VC firms are focusing on music tech and investing there. And there's one out of LA called Raised in Space, and they're primarily, and they only, their Scooter Braun's VC firm or like kind of running it, and they are primarily backed by Ripple. Like
Oh
that's
really? Okay.
their main funding's coming from them, and it's they want to find ways to implement blockchain into like the music tech.
Yeah.
Sure, they're investing in fintech, they're investing everywhere and kind of hedging their bets. But
Yeah.
it's interesting that you mentioned that they're kind of trying to get into the space in a way.
Yeah. I definitely see a parallel there. Although like there has to be someone who's like not the blockchain, there's an aspect of someone like figuring out or verifying that the next event is like valid. So there's that wouldn't be the case in this. It would just kind of be automated. But
Right.
definitely
Yeah, and that's the more social aspect that's the missing piece. Whereas the piece that isn't missing is like Billboard already has like an algorithm to like have like #1 song using like YouTube. I think they might use, do they use Spotify? I forget, but it's like social metrics, album sales. I think it was like interesting, like once YouTube like started being part of the Billboard algorithm in like 2013, and
Mhm.
right when that happened, like Harlem Shake like shot up to #1,
Harlem
because that was
Shake.
just like, it's like these viral, like these the music that would go viral on YouTube started becoming like #1 on Billboard. So they already have like
Did that get rid of that?
they already have like a commercial popularization of music.
Right.
And then like for people to do fantasy, that does sound kind of fun, like DraftKings and I guess gambling on artists. I don't know
Yeah.
where that is, but the missing space is that same thing as like Instagram, the same thing as like, the big social media platform that everybody uses. You can see what what celebrities are listening to, but
Right.
like close group of friends. That part I think is a different avenue than I guess the commercially successful, or betting on the commercially successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I think like using like the first iteration, or the first wave of like, okay, I suggested this song to you, you listened to it 10 times, therefore that's being attributed back to me, is interesting. But almost like the second and third ripple off of that is more interesting. Like essentially, if the blockchain thing that you're talking about, Nick, if it were done well, you could trace back the origins of a viral song back to a small adopters.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah. So like, and then why wouldn't then, if you were the guy that really blasted out Harlem Shake at the beginning, the next time a song is trying to go viral, they're gonna reach out to you. Like, so there's a monetization thing there, which I know is like can be the enemy, because then you're sort of controlling, the big labels can then start controlling the virality of it a little bit more. But
Yeah.
I think being able to like, okay, yes, I created 10 listens with my friend, but then he told 10 people about it, and then they each listened 10 times, and then all of a sudden Nick's getting credited with 5 million listens.
Yeah.
I think the ripples that could be created from this, from a social standpoint, I mean, it's the same as like retweets and shit. If Elon Musk gets a hold of your tweet and sends it out, then it's probably amplify much bigger. But I think that's where like the really cool social stuff could come down the line.
Yeah, and it should be like, like repeat listens. one of the issues, and you mentioned it kind of on labels with the money, but like SoundCloud, for example, like a lot of these, even like Spotify actually does a pretty good job of this, but like cheating the system,
Mhm.
right? Like in music, and one of the reasons that I think SoundCloud a downfall is because of how easy it was to play SoundCloud, and just everyone's in these repost groups, and like the biggest channel would just like charge for reposts, and the people who were hustling the most could get their artists just like getting the most plays. And that like hustle aspect, people were just getting their music. There was a little democratization, but people were just kind of going into repost networks, and it became like a pretty toxic place, whereas Spotify cut all that out, and they're like, we
Mhm.
control the best playlists. Like you can
Didn't
make playlists and like try to compete with us, but
didn't you
like,
say that there is like some curated playlist on Spotify that would be like, I don't know, like Rap Caviar or something, like they would only like every weekly or whatever they would release like a new playlist or whatever. So didn't you say that there was some democratization in terms of like how songs get on those certain curated playlists, and once they're on there, obviously they're gonna get a ton of more listens, right?
yeah. And that's how
So
songs become. There is some sort of a democratization, but there's a gatekeeper for these
okay.
editorial playlists. And the democratization can be difficult, and it can be gamed. And even you can even make the case that like with the whole blockchain thing, like the major labels, the three major labels, can still, have these very powerful pockets of influences, aka the influencers, who are just
Yeah,
promoting whoever the label connects them with,
yeah,
whoever the label makes them have a play date with.
Right.
They have the most influence points, so they can control who. Somebody's going to be controlling who the influencers are promoting by just simply connecting them. Most people are good. Most people, when you put creatives in a room, are going to get along. They're going to like each other. They're going to be influenced off each other, and labels connect who goes in a room with each other.
Yeah.
yeah. I guess that's hard to get
Pretty
around.
constant.
Like whatever method you use, I guess it's hard to get around really.
Yeah.